Clinton, Iowa, Jane Lime Hospital. We lived in a farm north of Miles. It's an old house, 2-story, brick home, with an add-on pantry and a kitchen. I just remember going down there, or out there, eating, and on the end of the house there was a slab of cement about 4 feet off the ground. Must have been a cistern or something in there. We'd always play on that. And that would have been I'd be 5 years old or 6, something like that. Yeah, we was always in trouble, but I don't remember why. Mother was always going to tell Dad on some little thing we did. We'd run away from her, and but that night Dad caught us. I don't know. Well, one of the things was we always had to take a nap in the afternoon. All the kids. About 2 o'clock, Mother sent us upstairs to go to sleep, and we got onto that pretty quick. When we got up or came downstairs, we always rolled our eyes, looked like we were sleeping. That got by for a little while, then she caught on to that. All the homes we lived in, they were 2-story homes. They're all the old, one of them was a brick home. The first one was a brick home. The other 2 were wooden frame buildings. Oil burner on the ground floor, that heated the house. They put in 5 gallons of fuel or whatever it takes to fill it, that'll run a day in. Nothing fancy, just wooden floors and shades on the windows. The first one had 4 bedrooms upstairs, 4 bedrooms, and the second one had one great big bedroom. That's where all of us keep. I gotta laugh about this one. That was a big room. All the kids slept in there, and then they had 1 or 2 smaller rooms. But anyway, Mother had a brother that dated a girl that was a housekeeper for the priest in town. And they loved to play cards, and he did too. And one time they had him out. The evening they were playing cards, and all at once stuff was dripping down through the stove, the port where the pipes went up. And my uncle said, well, the brown bomber just going over again. I don't know, one of those boys was peeing on the thing and missed the boss. I can remember saying, oh, the brown bomber just going over again. I didn't have any chores until, when I was in high school. Well, no, I'll take it back. Before we went, I was only, I'm thinking about it, I was only about, 49, that's 15 years old. Yeah, about that time, they always had a few milk cows who milked them by hand. And as kids have to go out in the morning and milk the cow before we go to school. But at night, we didn't milk at night, we just had to milk in the morning for some reason. Otherwise, you had to do that before you get breakfast. walked to the school bus. Just one cow a piece. About three or four of us had to do it at one time. Well, the first schools I went to, the classes were pretty small, like 20 or so. And even when I graduated from high school, there was only 21 in the class. So it wasn't big classes like they are nowadays. We had an old radio flyer wagon, and we'd take turns standing in the wagon and had reins out. And two of us, they had it like horses were pulling it, stuff like that. And there was no baseball around our time then. Christmas, they'd always have oyster stew. That was oyster stew, Christmas Eve or Christmas night, maybe both even. I think the first thing I remember, that was in the we just started school. I was in the school 1 or 2 years. And all the kids, the boys in our class had like 5 buckle boots. Instead of putting slippers on, or light rubbers on, they'd have boots come up halfway up their leg. And I remember that first winter, I wanted a pair of them. And I told Santa Claus that too. And I never got them, but what I did get, they had well, things were tough then. That was in about 1940, something like that. But what they did, my dad did, he had a pair of old boots that he cut off the bow and made that piece that fit up your leg. I remember that very well. We had to walk, the first few years we walked about half a mile to a gravel road where the bus stopped to pick us up, and they had an old car body sitting there. We stayed in there, until the bus came. Then we walked home when we got up there. Yeah. That's the only walking I did. After we moved to Preston, the school bus come around and picked us up from the house. She was born in Oklahoma. A lot of Indians around there. In fact, she might have a little bit, but we could have a little bit of Indians in us. But she was born out there, and they moved to Preston. I don't know how they got to Preston or why, but they moved to Preston, and that's where they stayed then. And she had 5 brothers. One was killed. A neighbor across the road, he was 12 years old. He was throwing up, I don't know what it was, something thrown up in the air, and he was trying to shoot at it and hit it from across the road with a gun, and it hit him and killed him. He was 12 years old. Adrian was his name. He was the baby of the family. And Yeah, she had one sister and 5 brothers. She was the boss of the family. She wore the pants of the family. When she said something, well, that's the way it was. Dad was real quiet. All he did was work. But if he had to do something, she told him to do it. Like, to us kids, penalize it. That damn, you know how to do it. If think of things to do, you always talk about it. You always let me go ahead and do what I wanted to do. And if it was wrong, I lived with the mistake. But he was, like I say, he was more of a passive guy that way. My mother was the force that kept everybody in line. I mean, she was a woman that if you didn't go to church on Sunday, you're going to go to hell, one of them. That's why we wound up in this country. South of town, this was a parochial school district, parochial schools. 2 schools in town, bingo, that's all it took. They went through the Depression, and they were just renting a farm on shares with the guy, Levi Wells. I don't know if he was a banker or what he was, but that was his name. On shares. And now they raised 7 kids on that. They sure as hell couldn't do it today. But we were all healthy at the time. One time I was sitting in the house in Preston. Well, we didn't have television then. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I think we listened to Gavin Barber or something on a Friday or Saturday night. They always had him on. They just loved that music. Yeah, that's what I think what it was. And I was at the age where I was trying to sneak smoking and stuff. And my uncles was always teasing me. Them days they rolled their own cigarettes. They didn't buy them, they rolled them. They'd always roll one over and hand it to me, teasing me. Cy was the worst. Well, anyway, I had 1 or 2 of them, and I just got up and went out to the outhouse to go, told I was going to the bathroom. And from the bathhouse you could look right into the kitchen. My dad was out there getting a drink of water, and he saw me sitting in there. I left the door open, and a little red light come on. I was drawing on a cigarette. And I didn't know he was up there watching or saw that. Anyway, I come in and he says, what are you doing? Where were you? Oh, I said, I was out in the bathroom. What are you doing? I said, I wasn't doing anything. I noticed that I got on my mouth, he just got all over me and threw me around like a wash rag. Just, the only thing he said to me was, he grabbed me, I can't believe how he threw me around, just like he was pretty strong evidently, because I was probably about 16 or 17 then. And he says, one thing, how do you say that? He says, don't lie to me. One thing I don't like is a liar. Bang, and I really got whacked. I'll never forgot that. I think probably Liz, my second oldest sister, or the oldest sister, I would think, probably. we played the band together, and marching band, and concert band. We didn't play baseball or anything, or softball. Well, yeah, crochet, or not crochet, but what do they call that? Hit that wooden ball through them hoops. Cricket, or not cricket, but
Croquet?
crochet.
Croquet.
Croquet, yeah, yeah. We used to play a lot of that. That was a Sunday afternoon project. Everybody had to get out and play that. When we moved to Lost Nation, it was bigger classes, had more activities, and we rode the bus to school. And we just got to know the teachers a lot better. Remember one lady, I didn't know, I couldn't dance. If somebody bet $1,000 that I could dance, I couldn't dance any kind of dance. And you see her name in the Lost Nation scoop, Alice Keel or Kettle, that was her name. Alice Green was her name in school. She taught English and PE. And I can remember the first time they took us all down to the gym and showed us how to square dance. And she showed me how to square dance, swinging on a pole or post and all. God damn, she was good. That's how I learned to dance. I played in the marching band 5 years. Played the tuba, big round horn you carry on your shoulder. We went to how many contests, national and state contests, and we were pretty damn good. Very strict. My third sister was a majorette on that time too, when I was a senior. She was a majorette of the marching band. Carried the what do we call that?
The batons or flags?
Yeah, baton or something. And spin it, you know. That's probably the best. I played basketball, but I was reserve. I did play in the state tournament though, in 1952. I got to play the last minute of the game. We got beat though. We were getting beat bad. But for a little school, we did really good that year. We beat West Waterloo and that was the other top. I was called up I got married in 52, and in 53 I was called up to take my physical. And one of the questions on the thing, are you married? Yeah. You got any children? And I just said, not yet. She was pregnant at the time. And I got instead of a 1A or whatever, I got not a 4F, but it was a 5F. So, but every guy that I went without to take my exam, they all went to Korea. They all came back. he was married at the time and had a child, that was an automatic deferment, I guess you'd call it. All I can remember is to tell you how they didn't have any money to go to do. Them days that people went horse and buggy or wagon, go to the neighbors and play cards tonight, instead of going to town to a movie or drink beer at a tavern or whatever, like they do now, or to a show or whatever. It was all done. We had a farmer or miles south of Miles. They used to go down there and play cards an awful lot. And a lot of times before they play cards, they play hide go seek. God damn, I never figured that out. Only thing I remember about affected me as far as knowledge or anything of the Second World War is we had two neighbors in Preston that had to go. They were drafted, and they came back. But one time, the one of them came back. They went to a dance in what the hell was it? Fairyland, south of DeWitt. It was a popular place then. And they got in a fight about nylons. See, nylon was just something new, and in nylon stockings and stuff. They got in a hell of a fight on that. I remember telling them about that, but that's the only thing I know about the war. That was a direct result of the war. I'm telling you, it was all over nylons. I don't know if his wife was aware of them or tried to get some or something. I don't know what it was. Well, it was when we moved to Los Angeles, I was a junior in high school. And the junior, of course, when all the town people and the country people, they were all together in your grades, you know. And when I got in this room for juniors, she was there about 3 or 4 seats behind me. Sitting on top of it, but as you bump into one another, the fire starts to light, you know. And when we got up to about Southport, about Southport here, where we played a lot of basketball. And about a year later, at a ball game, after the game was over, she only had to walk about 4 blocks to be home. 4 blocks to be home. Of course, Dad let me take the pickup to school, play, and I said, I asked her, do you want to ride home? And my God, she said, yeah, that was sort of we went to Davenport to what the hell is that? Not the Masonic Hall, but they got the theater down there that they have these big bands and shows come in. We just love to go down to them shows. Spike Jones is one of my favorites. They had the goofiest looking guy sitting on the end of the bench playing the banjo. Looked like he didn't have any teeth and a hat on cockeyed. And Spike Jones was the leader of the band and kind of a character. Every once in a while, when there'd be a drum beat or a snare drummer was supposed to hit it hard, he'd hit it hard and bang, the gun go off and the goose would fall down. Stuff like that. Comedy show. Yeah, we like to do a lot of that stuff. And we go to tournament games and stuff, but that was about the time the TV first came in, because she was in a quartet in high school. My wife was in a quartet, and they were pretty good. They was on WOC TV down in Davenport, and everybody went to town with the hotel. He had a little TV about that wide, and it was only about that big around. See, and watch them. Yeah, that was time changed. That after she passed away, you didn't realize how much you missed her and what you could have done to make it a little better. I think that at that point was the time that I really missed it. After we bought this farm, we moved up here, and I come home one night, about 3 or 4 years later, decided we was gonna build a hog house up there. I told her that at the table. She decided, well, you're not building a hog house on this farm. I said, why not? He says, you'll never be in the house anymore. And now there's 2 of them up there. But no, when she got something in her mind, she was, and it's not all bad to be that way, but I got you. She wasn't an expensive wife either. She was a spendthrift, wasn't no spendthrift, I'll say that. That's a big deal anymore. You know, expensive clothing and shoes and different things going here and there. She wasn't that way. Of course, she grew up probably poorer than we were. Her dad was a mechanic, and her mother didn't work. Well, she worked at the bank, swept the floors and stuff. And they had 8 kids too. I don't know how they always. When we first got married in 1952, I was getting $200 a month for a salary. And we rented an apartment down for $50 a month. So we lived on $150. There ain't very many people. I don't think anybody can do it now. Hell, the grocery bill would be more than that if you eat it all. I keep thinking about that all day. How we got along, and we bought a little bit of insurance too. Well, my folks were, if you didn't have the money to buy it, don't buy it. Because they went through the Depression. After we got married about 3 months, Jenna wanted to make a new dress. She was a good sewer. And she went down to Clinton and got her clothing and her material, and come to pay for it, she opened a charge account down there. And she had to give references. They didn't know her from valet, and anyway, about 3 or 4 days after she was home, my dad called me in the morning and said, say, what's this deal about a credit check down at a certain place in Clinton? I said, I don't know anything about it. Well, then after I said that, I knew that she was down there getting some clothing, and that's probably what it was. But I thought she paid for it, but she didn't, she charged it. And Dad says, he didn't lecture me again, he says, you gotta stop this. And that's the only time she ever charged anything down there, but she made a nice red suit out of that, what, it was good. when I was a senior in high school, Dad gave me 7 acres. Was an old hog pasture for an FFA project. And we ripped it up and planted corn in it. And that was my first FFA and farming project. And then after that, I planted that, but I planted the corn, some on his corn that year too, for the first time. Used to pull wire over to the planter, hitting a button and it'd triple all the time. And I just kind of just grew into it like that. It was nothing special really. But I just love livestock. Always liked livestock, pigs and cattle. And on the farm where we lived in Lost Nation, it was a grain farm. There's no buildings around there for very much livestock at all. And there wasn't up here when we bought here either. There was nothing. I built it all. But I bet Dad probably turned over in the grave different times what I did, and how I did it. Again, it's philosophy, because I borrowed a lot of money to get things going, but I raised a lot of hogs the old-fashioned way. They were the mortgage lifters. After I was done chores, about 5:30, the John Deere dealer was closing up, and I was going in for parts. I needed some parts for the next day. And here sat Paulie Fobb, not Paul, Cliffy Fobb, talking to the parts man, and I just steps in, talked for a little bit for him. He says, I suppose you're in on that deal too. I said, what deal? Well, he said they got a boat they're trying to buy, looking for investors to buy it. Then they tell me about it, and they had 2 shares left to sell. I said, I don't know, I'll have to talk to the wife. So I went home and we talked over, and she said, I don't want to do it. There was $50,000 a share. She said, I don't think we better do it. Well, in them days, when you're handling so much livestock, your cash flow was rolling over all the time. You really didn't know how much you had to spend, could spend. So I just took that share. I called him back that night, and I said, I'll take that share. He said, what about the other one? I said, no, I don't think so. One's enough. So that's how we got involved with that. And that turned out real well. It was a gambling boat, a paddle wheel gambling boat. And it was down in New Orleans or somewhere down in the south somewhere. And it was for sale. Robert Keel. And he talked they'd been talking to the state about passing a law for gambling on a boat or for just plain gambling like that. Well, they did pass it that next year. Anyway, I think that boat that we got, well, maybe I'm wrong on that. I think we bought the second boat. and had it refitted, sent it out to 4 miles out, or no, 12 miles out from the coastline. Then you could gamble in international waters down in Florida, but that didn't work out very good. We sold that. But when we sold this one up here, that really made a big difference in what we were doing, or it turned out to be here now. I wanted to get my dad's idea of don't buy it unless you got the money. I took that $1 million, I invested in all the land I got here as a down payment. It wasn't enough for long anyway. Not for long. Well, that $50,000 was brought in $1,200,000. 2 feed yards out in Nebraska now. Well, I just own very little of it. It's just, I don't know how to say it. There were 7 guys or 10 guys from town here, all thought they, should own a feed yard in Nebraska. Well, everybody put $100,000 in, and I did it, Mark did. Went out there and we bought this. It was a 1,500 head yard. Farmer that was going belly out. And we bought that and got that going real good. And we were financing with the bank in Yankton, South Dakota for the operation of it. I got to know that banker very well. He's a good lad, young lad. I said, geez, if you ever find a feedlot, or I told him what I wanted. He asked me, what's your goal here? And I said, I don't know any idea, but I said, I always wanted to own a section of land, 640 acres, one piece. And I always wanted to own a bank, and I always wanted to own a feedlot. And at the time, I didn't have any of that. Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this banker from First Dakota called me. I thought, man, this is not the right time for you to be calling me. 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. They're usually golfing, Says I got a deal roll by. They were just repossessing a feed yard out in the center part of Nebraska. And I said, what do they want for it? Or how big is it? He told me all the numbers on it. And he mailed me this stuff later. And they priced it at, it was $1,300,000 or something. And I told the bank, I said, I won't do it, I don't want it. Oh, he said, what would you get for it? He gave me the list of all the equipment and everything there. I said, I'll give you $1 million for it. About an hour later, he called back, he says, I think we're gonna sell that to you. I never even saw it. And I went out to see it. It was a pretty, well, I haven't been out there for a year or two now, but it was a big operation that was full of cattle, or it wasn't full at that time. And about after we had a year, one of our partners that went in on it with me, got the call from somebody that the church out there wanted to sell their, about 7 miles from the feed yard was square section of ground. They wanted to sell it. Some church deal in Missouri, they just wanted to sell it. So we bought that and just we accumulated about what, how many acres?
4,000.
4,000. Just by word of mouth. Went out there one time to a sale. We did buy the property. And when he was leaving, an old fellow and his wife, he could hardly walk. His knees were about as bad as mine. He said, "You're still looking for some ground?" I said, "Well, what do you got?" He told me. And we bought that too. Well, I started with 5 acres. I started as a senior. And now there's close to 7,000 acres. Counting all this in Custer County and CD, about 7. We're involved in that much of it. We don't own it all, we own a big share of it. Two, boy and a girl, Mary and Mark. May 22nd, 1917, or 2017. Along with an artist knock I had, I think of the whole roadway is that. And didn't realize it for a couple of days either. Well, there's probably 3 of them. The ones when I got married and each time the child was born. Then I raised a good solid family, not no. Yeah, they got the basics and they'll be all right. If you get in an argument, let it go in one ear and go out the other. Just don't hold a grudge or anything. Even if you don't like it, just let it go in one ear and out the other. It'll all heal over a day or two anyway. Technology with this GPS and phones and all that stuff, that's the greatest thing is. If I know then what I know now, I'd have bought every piece of land I ever looked at. Yeah, I always thought it was too high. There's a piece of ground right over the hill there. It was $800 to join us. I thought that was too much. Now it would bring 8 or 10. I was building some farm crates in an old hog house in Los Station. It was just after we were married, it was in August. And I had a 16-penny nail between my finger and hold it, hit it with a hammer. And I took my hand away and I hit the head of the nail went right through the nail of my finger. I was nailed to the fence. The good thing I didn't throw the hammer away, but I just dropped it. And I pulled that nail out. So I got off the fence. And that was good for, they just bandaged it up and put peroxide on it and mercurochrome, bandaged it up, and that was good until about 1990, in the 90s sometime. Then I started getting drainage out of that. You got an infection in it, osteomyelitis. You'd squeeze it, and part of your bone come out with the pus stuff. So I told Doc Lenners, see what he could do with that. And he took up, I said, make sure you get enough around the end that when a bump would go hit bone, and he did. I saw him sometime later and I said, yeah, I really like that, how you got that done. Don't give up on a project you got. If you think you got something, why go with it? If you fail, you can always start over. You'll never know unless you try it. Now, this could blow up here, I might not, things that'd be pretty bad if you lost everything you had now. What would you do? But it'd be, if it's your own mistake, why, that's a little different than there's different things that can affect markets, like your cyber attacks and the markets going up and down and getting a war or something. You don't have no control over that. But if you got the basics covered within reason, I think everybody will be all right.